Hey guys, it's Matt Wenning at winningstrength.com, and today we're going to talk about a subject that I've been wanting to talk about too for a while, and that is why I'm against youth powerlifting. So stay tuned and listen to what we're talking about and why I would say to stay away from this at a young age. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hop back into some Soviet research. The first thing the Soviets talk about is that successful performance at the ages of 6 to 14 don't necessarily make someone turn into an Olympic level athlete. They saw this hundreds of times in the old Eastern Bloc countries. Early specialization can cause massive issues. So, as we know now, the USAPL now has classes of particular strength training or powerlifting classes from the years of 8 to 10 years old is the youngest class. Now what I don't like about that is that if we look here in Super Training book, page 25, they say that weightlifting shouldn't start the sport until 10 to 11. And in weightlifting, they basically are teaching them with dowel rods for the first 2 to 4 years that they're even learning how to do this stuff. So it's the specialization age of weightlifting is 17 to 18, and high performance is between the age of 21 to 28. So I ask myself all the time, why would the USAPL come out with a class between 8 to 10 years old? And I start to wonder, is it really in the best interest of our kids and the sport in general? My answer would be no. The next thing that I don't like about competition, particular age brackets of this young, 8 to 10 is the first age bracket, is that we also have weight classes. So if we look at the USAPL, we have a 30 kg, a 35 kg, a 40, a 44, and a 48 kilogram weight class. Now what I want to get to is that, is it really a good idea for kids to have weight classes this young? The answer is no, because when you have weight classes this old, it could lead, especially with female athletes, it could lead to all kinds of eating disorders, body dysmorphia issues, all kinds of things. And that's where I'm against competitive powerlifting at a younger age as well, based on the weight classes. Now, my third major concern is that who is a good enough coach to coach these kids at this age? And the answer is not very many around the entire country or the world. This is where we get into, if we look at places like, or people like Istvan Bali, that has probably put more people in the NHL than anyone from Canada. He has 3 phases of training. We have the train to train phase, which lasts the first 3 to 5 years of any kind of specialized sport, where specialization is completely knocked out. It's only introduced. This means that if we want a kid to be a great powerlifter at the age of 8 years old, they should be practicing with PVC pipes, possibly slight hanging weights that are chaotic to develop stabilization. And it should be fun. It should be a game. It should just be part of their physical culture. It shouldn't be that they're prepping for competition. What I find is a huge issue is that if we start this specialization too soon, that not only will the athlete be burned out, but it's going to create all kinds of specialized injuries, which Super Training and a lot of the other Soviet books talk about. Remember that if we want someone to be good at weight training, and most of the sports that are listed here, which we'll show the picture of, your prime is not going to be between the ages of 21 to 28 years old. That's on average. So that means that if you're starting at 8 years old, you're already going to be at 28 years old, 20 years deep into training. Possibly, if you've done it incorrectly, you're going to have a lot of nagging injuries by the time you're in your prime. So the point is that you want to be really careful with specializing too soon. I have no conception of how or why the USAPL would want to come out with these smaller classes when we really don't have the level of coaching, especially in the United States, that's going to be needed for early specialization. The only place that I feel, the only sport I feel that has the ability to do that is hockey. And the reason is because they understand long-term ability, they understand long-term development, and guys like Istvan Bali and Verkhoshansky and all them understood that there's a time and place to specialize. And that specialization is not between the ages of 8 to 10 years old. So what I'm saying is that if you have kids and you're wanting to get them into powerlifting because that's what you like, make sure you make it a game for them. Make sure you make it fun. I wouldn't take them to competitions. I would have them just have fun with it, learn technique, and then never put it above natural play. You know, don't say, well, you can't go ride your bike with your friends because you got to squat with your dad tonight. It's not a good idea. You want to give them a full range and a full base of training. So that way, if they decide to be powerlifters at the right time, that now will be a good time for them to start specializing in particular movements. The other big thing I think we have to understand is, and I wanted to go over it, we've talked about the first phase of training, but Istvan breaks everything into 3 phases. The first phase is train to train. That lasts around 5 years, and that's just non-specialization and generality of athleticism. Meaning if you want to be a great powerlifter or strength athlete, you might want to be involved in tumbling, gymnastics, and all other different kinds of sports that are probably the most important thing is to raise general physical preparedness or work capacity. So you need a high level of work capacity before you can start any kind of heavy or strenuous strength training program. That could take anywhere from 3 to 5 years. The next phase is the train to compete phase. And that's where the first particular year or years of competition should come in, which should be between the ages of 14 and 16, if you want to time this correctly. This means that you might do a competition maybe once or twice a year, but it's still not the bread and butter of your actual training, meaning that you're not really trying to compare numbers to other people or break records per se. You're just getting a feel for competitions, learning how to control anxiety and jitters, and just having fun and breaking PRs. How do we do that? Well, I got lucky because when I was a kid, my particular coaches from Muncie never really let me max at a competition. I was only ever allowed to do about 90% of what they thought I could do. So the first bench press meet I did, I was 13, I bench pressed 250, and it was very easy. Probably had 275 or more in me. The next competition I did was about a year later, and I hit 300 easily. Still had more in the tank. The next competition I went to, I hit 345 easily. A lot more in the tank. The point is that I always left the competition with wanting more, wanting to be able to do more, wanting to be able to train hard. So I find that most coaches are not going to be educated enough to keep their kids from truly maxing. And we know that that's not good for training. And remember, we're in the train to train phase. Now, if we've done everything correctly, the train to train phase is going to last anywhere from another 3 to 5 years. So now we're at year 10 of actually formalized training. Now we're in the train to win phase. That means we compare numbers. We start to try to break records. We start to try to really enhance the specialization of training. And this can last anywhere from another 5 to 8 years or more, depending on how healthy and how smart you've trained. The point is that you have to make it to this 28 to 30-year-old range in weightlifting or powerlifting in order for you to see your true results. So if you're starting at 8 years old, you're already competing at a high level for that age, you're going to have major issues down the road with weight classes and overuse injuries and all these other things. So if you have kids that you want to get involved in resistance training and you don't have any competent coaches around the area, which is fairly common, contact us on online coaching and let us help you design what's smart for your kid to get better, not only now, but in the future, and not pay for it later. Thanks for watching.